Where to begin? So people ask me this question all the time. How do I get started in plant spirit work? How do I start making those connections, nourishing those relationships, forging those paths into the green art? There's a reason why this question is so important because there's not really a format. There's not a structure to sorceress work. It's incredibly unique and personal for each individual that holds it. It's relationship based, so it's going to unfold and unwind in really specific ways for each person. So we don't have the luxury, the ease of saying step 1, step 2, step 3. It doesn't exist. B, the first relationship of power that we create from any of the citizens of the green realm, any of the plant spirits, acts like an initiation and a foray into the fullness of all of the plant spirits. So that original guardian, guide, mentor who is a plant person sort of brings us into the wholeness of plant persons. And so that relationship is incredibly important. The familiar relationship is one that stands at the center of all the work that we do and all of the power that we hold and all of the abilities, the crafts and the arts that we try to hone and refine over time. So folks can get really tripped up on, how do I start the relationship? How do I figure out which plant to work with and what to do with that plant and how to navigate the situation? So the easy answer is that plant spirit relationships are like every other relationship, right? They start off slow and we get to know each other over time, and within usually a short amount of time there's a sense of trust and intimacy that develops, and we begin learning more and more mysteries directly from the plants, which is the way that it should be, and we become more and more vulnerable in the presence of the plants, which is the way it should be. Our vulnerability in their presence is what helps us to do the deep work, the shadow work, the root work. So it can be really daunting to try to figure out who should I sit with first. And one thing that I've found to be super helpful for a lot of people is to let go of this notion that there's that one perfect plant ally that you're supposed to go find, that there's one tree or one flower out there that's the right one for you, and above all others, that's the one who's going to be your greatest ally in the work. That just doesn't exist. Really, we're capable of entering into relationships with every single plant. Some of those relationships will be deeper and more intimate and more meaningful. Some of them might be relationships of avoidance. They might be relationships of apotropaic work, of acknowledging the particular personality, the particular temperament of a plant, and recognizing that it doesn't feel like a good space for us to be in, but in doing that, we are engaging in a type of relationship that is respectful. So we can have relationships with all the plants, and there will definitely be some over the career of someone involved in green sorcery that will stand out above the others, a patron, or in most cases patrons, plural. And those are the plants that ultimately introduce you to other plants and help kind of move you deeper and deeper into the work. And that's how I've experienced it. That's how lots of other folks have experienced it, that we are given that initial plant ally through one of two ways, which is what we're going to get to in this class eventually. And that ally does a great deal of work with us, and oftentimes will then inspire us into a relationship with another plant ally. And it doesn't mean that we cut that original ally off. It just means that instead of being the one, the only one, they start to become part of our spirit troop, part of our collective of spirits that we work with and that we traffic, right? So we do get moved around. The relationships change in intensity. It's totally normal. And if you reflect on your human experience with other humans, you will find the same thing. You know, we have friendships that are incredibly intense for a summer, 3 years, a decade, and people sort of change. They go in different directions, relationships adjust, sometimes they fizzle out, sometimes they just change, and all of that is totally normal. So the two ways that I like to talk about coming into this relationship, this initial relationship, and one of them is really meant to give you a great deal of peace. So I'm going to end with that one. The first is to be given an ally, to be gifted an ally. And this is very traditional within many, many forms, many lineages of plant spirit work across time and place, that the teacher, the mentor, the guide, the human teacher will actually gift or facilitate a relationship between the apprentice, the student, and the particular plant ally, because the teacher can see or perceive a beneficial connection between the two. They can see the way that medicine exchange will happen, and so they, as a person already in deep relationship with the green realm, will sort of matchmake and will sort of bring those two, the plant spirit and the human person, into a working relationship. That again may be a short-term thing. It may be just an initiatory process, or it may end up being something else. So that gift from a human teacher, and then we also have many, many examples of human practitioners, human sorcerers being gifted a familiar from one of the deities, one of the gods or goddesses of the tradition, usually a deity who has some deep association with plant spirit work, with the wildwood, with the ancient tracks, with herbalism, with plant sorcery, however you want to look at it. Usually there's some overlap there, there's some connection there. So when we're in deep relationship with a deity, sometimes that deity will gift us a plant spirit relationship, which is how it's happened for me relatively consistently over my career. So two different forms of being gifted. And the third thing, which really is sort of the one that I hope brings you the most amount of peace and really acts as an invitation to just kind of let go of worrying about all of the details and just show up for the work, is that we can begin plant spirit work, we can begin green sorcery without having a very specific plant ally, by being in relationship with all plants. Now, most of what we do does require a deep relationship with a specific plant. But again, if you are just starting and you don't know where to start and you don't even have that in place yet, we have to have, you know, some solid ground to step onto. So here's that solid ground that we can begin our work by attuning to, honoring, petitioning, meditating on, becoming aware of the fullness of the green realm, the fullness of all the plant spirits, all at once, right? Just becoming aware and devoted and opened to the plants in general with a capital P. In the same way that we would normally do work with an individual plant spirit, we can just walk through life being really open to all of them. And so this can take the form of setting up a small shrine or altar outdoors, ideally in front of a large tree that is dedicated to the plant spirits all. A space where you can sit and connect with them, share sacred breath with them, make offerings to them, do divination with them as a collective. It is also very helpful to sit, eyes open, eyes closed, indoors, outdoors, it doesn't matter, and try to just call into your consciousness the presence of the plant spirits, that we are surrounded by them. It doesn't matter where you are, that green world of spirit saturates our own. It is interwoven with our full experience of humanness and our full perspective of the way we interface with the world. So just sitting down and kind of trying to call in that green world and just be aware of it is very powerful. A more sort of direct action that we can take that seems very basic and very novel, but it's very powerful. Don't confuse basic with foundational, right? Is to go walk in nature. Get into a forest, get onto a trail, go to a park, a botanical gardens, if that's what you have access to, and just be in the presence of the plant spirits, choosing to walk into that space with an open heart and an open mind and an awareness of who the plant spirits are. That intent, we did a whole class recently just on intention. That intent to connect, to enter into relationship, to gain access, to open the ways and unlock the gates is enough to actually create an altered state of consciousness. So that as we're wandering through a park or through a forest, parts of us are activated that are normally not activated. We're engaging sensory organoleptic faculties that are normally either not activated or are relatively quiet or dampened so that we can survive the loudness of the world that we live in. So just get out there and connect with the plant spirits all. And this is a term that I really love and that I use a lot in my work, that when we're petitioning for help, for guidance, for access, for wisdom, that we petition the plant spirits all. That we light candle for the plant spirits all. We pour libation for the plant spirits all. We create space on our altars for the plant spirits all. And by doing that, we really sort of raise a spiritual hand and say, hey, we're ready. We want more, bring it, right? And from here, either we attract the attention of deity or the attention of teacher, who then gifts us a plant spirit ally, or the plant spirit ally themselves comes into our life through synchronicity and just kind of magic, right? And when the relationship clicks in, there's a calling there, a familiarity, a comfort, a fascination. And sometimes it's really big and loud, and sometimes it's just an inner knowing, and you follow it, and there you find yourself doing the work. Sorcery, in this case, green sorcery, is what a green sorcery does. It's all about what we do and very little about what we think. So show up and do the work. Don't let a perceived lack of connection to the spirit world or to the world of the plant spirits be a preventative for you getting involved. You can get involved right now just by how you choose to walk through the world and open yourself up to the plant spirits all.